This podcast is brought to you by absolutely no one. The Bold and the Beautiful podcast with Dave Eller. Who the hell is Dave Eller?
Welcome to the podcast, beautiful people. It's Dave Eller here. How you going? My guest today, well, he's a very colourful character indeed. He's lived over 1,000 lives, you might say. Once a celebrity hairdresser and fashion designer behind the very popular label Buddhist Punk, he has lived in London, New York, Madrid and Bali, just to name a few of the places around the world he's been and lived. A reformed heroin addict, he clinically died twice, did you believe? He's now a dad to 4 kids with 3 different lovely ladies, and he gets his highs today from having a good surf and helping people suffering with a variety of things, from everything from depression to cancer. He is at the forefront of the medicinal cannabis movement here in Australia, and he pushes the limits, he pushes the legal boundaries every day in regards to supply to assist these people who are in need. He released a documentary late last year, 2019, called Green Light, which will give you some more insight into the work that he and his partner have been doing with the likes of children, the elderly, even animals. Basically helping relieve their suffering and providing a much better quality of life. He's a colourful character, he's a great man, I loved having a chat to him. Please welcome my beautiful guest, Nick Morley. Wasn't the first state in America to legalise medicinal marijuana and actually legalise marijuana in general was Colorado, and they've just legalised psilocybin. Yes, and they're doing research with psilocybin now. Yes, yeah. So they'll be at the forefront of all that. Yep. I was pretty interested to know that Colorado real estate went through the roof as soon as they legalised marijuana over there. Let's say cannabis. Yeah, we don't. Marijuana's a slang term. Word, it's a slang term. Yeah, it's actually kind of a derogatory term. And this is what I wanted to ask you, because in the 60s. Marijuana use cannabis use started to rise, right? And then we got into things like the Vietnam War, yep, which saw even more increase in cannabis due to the protesting side of stuff, the youth culture. You go into the 70s, you get the hippies. Yep. Now, has marijuana or cannabis got a bad reputation? I think it has got a bad rap, and I think it's. I don't think it's justified. I think that, people can have great results with medicinal cannabis, or people can have a really bad time with it as well. Yeah. It doesn't suit everyone. Yeah. And especially if you take too much, it can be fucking heavy. Well, because when you smoke cannabis, yep, it's a different effect to having it as a edible. Absolutely. Right? And having oil on your tongue or in your mouth, that's going to be the same effect as an edible, correct? Yep. Which means it's more psychoactive because it's also going through the liver. Is that correct? That's true, but the most effective way to take it, yep, is to vaporise it. Oh, okay. Yeah, you get the best uptake is through vaporising. Yeah. And it's the most efficient and it's the fastest. So, like for people that are suffering from chronic pain, a puff on a vape pen or a smoke on a joint is pretty much immediate. Yep. As far as helping you, deal with that pain, or if you're suffering from seizures or tremors due to Parkinson's or conditions like that. Yep. If you vaporise it, it literally can stop it in its tracks, like within a minute or two. Whereas if you're taking oils or having edibles, depending on how much you've had and what you've eaten, you're looking at an hour and a half uptake. Yep. So, vaporising, but the problem there lies that vaping's had such a bad rap lately. Yeah, it has. Because there's so much shit, and and justifiably so. I mean, the vape scene going on amongst the kids is quite alarming. And I'm not talking about vaping medicinal cannabis. I'm talking about these fucking lollipop flavours that they've got going on. Yeah. You see these kids walking down the street thinking they're fucking dragons or something. Yeah. And it's and really there hasn't been enough research into what sort of damage that is doing to the lungs. You know, I mean, fuck, it can't be good. I mean, burning burning a candle, a fragrance candle with all these cheap fragrances that are in there is completely toxic. And you imagine what it's like when you're breathing that shit into your lungs.
Yeah, because they're getting the flavour, they're getting that lolly flavour, whether it's apple or some sort of fruit or some sort of cinnamon. And
yeah, it's fucking gross.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But you know, there are you know, really good extraction ways now for cannabis, and it is a very safe way to take it.
How did you?
Yeah.
I mean, you've had a pretty big life. You were a hairdresser.
Yep.
Hairstylist. You got into fashion. The Buddhist Punk label, I think you started in the late 90s.
Yep.
Became huge.
Yep.
Supermodels were wearing it. Rock stars were wearing it.
Footy stars were
wearing it. I mean, that's crazy. And now you become this medicinal cannabis crusader, if you like. How does that happen?
Well, I don't know. I've moved around a lot. So I started hairdressing when I was 15. I left school at a really early age. I left school halfway through year 10.
Where did you grow up? Sydney?
I grew up in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I went to a couple of schools. I wasn't great at school. I had a real problem with concentrating. I'm really ADD. Mm-hmm. So ADHD. Is that right? ADHD? Yeah.
There's ADD, there's ADHD.
Anyway, I have problems concentrating and focusing on things.
Yeah.
And I found school really difficult. I've always been a creative person. Anyway, I started hairdressing purely because I wanted to be around lots of girls. Yeah. And I thought, you know, how do I surround myself with pretty girls? Work in a hairdressing salon. So that's what I did. And I worked out by the age of like 21 that salon life was not for me, but the girls were. So I became, I wanted to be a freelance hairstylist and makeup artist and work on shoots. So then I learnt makeup, and I started off my career as a freelancer, and I had a pretty successful career. I mean, I did my first Vogue cover, my only Vogue cover, when I was like, I think I was about 24 or 25 years of age.
That's pretty big news.
Yeah, you know, I did well, and I travelled to Europe. I worked in Italy, Spain, Greece, UK, did some time back here, and then ended up in New York, Miami and New York. And I had a 7-year career in the States, and I did really well there. Worked with a lot of the top people and made good money. Met my first wife, Claire, there. But I'd always had this love affair with Bali, because I'd been going to Bali ever since I was 17. So the moment we started making some money, I kept saying, let's go to Bali, let's go to Bali.
So you would have first, because you're about my age, we're at the same age, so you would have gone to Bali. Yeah, I'm 51 this year, coming up. Actually, next month, jeez. But if you went to Bali at 17, that would have been, because I went to Bali at 16, so about 85, 86. Yep. I went to Ubud, and it was literally just one dirt road. Yep. That was it.
Yeah, well, back then Legian and the road to Kuta wasn't made.
Yeah.
It was all, and it was a really cool scene back then in Bali. It was, you know, it was more hippie sort of travellers and, you know, pirates and drug smugglers and all kinds of really interesting people.
Jewel thieves.
Yeah, jewel smugglers. I knew people that smuggled gold, smuggled drugs, all kinds of stuff, you know. And it was a really alternative kind of hippie style, you know. And, you know, back then it used to attract, you know, Bowie and, you know, Jagger and all the rock stars used to go there. It was really interesting. And then, it's changed so much now, though. Like, it's attracted a really, really, like, weird crowd.
It's become a different place, isn't it?
Absolutely. I lived in Canggu for 10 years, and I can't recognise my old neighbourhood.
Yeah.
And the people that go there, you know. It's become, you know, boob jobs, lip jobs, and lots of tattoo sleeves and Russians, and it's just a really weird
I loved Bali so much that after my first visit when I was 16, I ended up going back again when I was 19. I think I took my girlfriend over there for a birthday present, because it was cheap as back then. You could go over there for next to nothing.
Yeah, $2 or $3 a night I used to pay.
And then I got married in Bali.
Yeah, me too.
That's how much did you? I loved it. It was such an awesome place. But I haven't been back since I got married and divorced. But yeah, it has definitely become a strange place, but so has Byron. Byron's become a different place to what it was 15, 20 years ago?
Social media has ruined the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, in one way it's been amazing, in another way it's just completely fucked it.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's secret anymore.
No.
You know, everyone knows everything.
Yeah.
Everyone posts everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, oh, Byron looks great. You know, everyone's posting pictures of Byron, so everyone wants to come in and Byron. Same thing happened in Canggu.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Social media, you know, destroyed it for what I loved about it, but at the same time, you know, like it's still a really amazing place. I think they're absolutely struggling at the moment there.
Yeah, well, like everywhere is, I suppose. We're all.
Yeah,
how are you going with all this COVID stuff?
Yeah, good. I've got a pretty strong view about it all. I want to, before I get into it, I want to be respectful to the people that have already deceased. You know, and you look at Italy and you look at America and the amount of people that have sort of, you know, passed away there. I think it's been really, really frightening. But, you know, if you look at the figures, in some places it's less dangerous than the flu. And in Australia, I think it's still under 100 people have died from it.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think last year more people died from the flu. Is it worth shutting down the economy and destroying hundreds of thousands or millions of lives? No, I don't think so.
And I might have this wrong, but I don't know, has there ever been another time when we've had this sort of problem where we've had to isolate people that were healthy? You know, normally you isolate unhealthy people, you isolate the sick, but we're making people who are fit and well and healthy stay in the confines of their own home.
Yeah, which I don't agree with. And not only that, but you know, now we're in a situation where our government is trying to force vaccinations on us. And you know, look, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I've actually got, you know, I've got 4 children. 3 of them have been vaccinated, and the last one, my little boy, he hasn't been vaccinated. And reading through what goes into these vaccines, I couldn't do it to him now. Saying that, you know, my other 3 have all been vaccinated and they're all incredibly healthy. But, you know, I think that we all deserve the right to have a choice of what we put in our bodies.
Yeah, they're taking away our choice, aren't they?
They're taking away our choices, and that fucking scares the shit out of me. You know, we got to stand up to that.
Well, it's like, and I'm sort of reminded a little bit of when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of theories around that, and I'm not here to say, was it a conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. There's stuff around it, and the world changed after it. We changed the way that we travel, we changed the way that security operates in every sense of the word.
Yep.
And now this sort of feels the same. Whether it's a conspiracy, whether you want to think that, whether you want to think it's not, the point is, it's all going to change.
Yeah, our civil rights and our civil liberties are literally disappearing in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And if we don't all get together and stand up and call the government out on it, we are going to be, I think, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be fucked. You know, I mean, you look at this. You know, they're forcing these NRL guys into getting flu shots. I mean, there is no proof to prove that a flu shot is going to save you from, you know, COVID-19. There is no fucking proof.
Well, isn't it? It's done a flu shot. There's not even a guarantee that the flu shot will work against the flu. They're only guessing what they put into the flu shot to come up against what they think may be the flu.
I think it's like 30%.
Yeah.
But, you know, and you read what's going into these flu shots, it's fucking horrible. I mean, they're injecting you with poison.
Yeah.
So I've never had a flu shot. You know, I've had a flu. Like I got a flu 2 years ago. I thought I was going to die. It was heavy. But, you know, I think what I've got out of this, which has been really good for me, and I've you know, I'm pretty active on social media, and I've sort of been quite outspoken about it, is, look, everyone's got to look after themselves. You know, you've got to take your own health into your own hands. And, you know, I don't think that, you know, as a country, we're really that healthy. You know, there are so many great supplements out there on the market that you can take to keep yourself strong, and you know, exercise, get some sun, stay happy, stay focused, stay positive. You know, you'll beat it. I mean,
I reckon that's one of the biggest things that come out of this whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
Is the more people I talk to, I hear from people that they're spending more time with their family, they're spending more time on their own personal health by going for walks on the beach, from training by themselves, meditating. So I think that's the good thing to come out of all this crap.
Yeah.
And I'm really uplifted by that.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, there's a lot of shit that's coming out of it, and it's the removal of our civil liberties.
Yeah, I think I worry for my kids being able to travel and move around the planet, as freely as what I did. Like I've filled 3 passports. I've been around, and I would love my kids to be able to have that option, but I don't think they're going to be able to.
Not as freely.
Yeah, no way. I mean, from the news, the bad news that I've been reading, they're saying that this is going to affect overseas air travel so severely that there's talk that you will not be able to enter countries unless you've been vaccinated. Or you've done this, you've done that, and like how are the airports going to make money out of if everyone's doing social distancing? How are planes going to be able to afford to fly? Like, is the price going to go up by 3 or 4 times? I reckon it will. And I think
which changes it to who can afford to actually have these experiences in life.
Absolutely. I mean, I reckon there's going to be a big market in black market travel. I'm saving up for a pirate ship, and I'm just going to start.
Someone's got to invent time travel and like portals and things like that so we can get around that way.
Yeah. Look, I reckon there's so much amazing technology out there that they're just holding on to. Anyway, it'll be really interesting to see what happens. But yeah, like we both agreed on there, our civil rights and our right to choose has been taken away from us, and we need to stand up to them, and we need to be heard. So sign petitions, send letters to your Prime Minister. I've just sent a letter to the Prime Minister, a document, which is registered mail saying, hey, if anything happens to me, if you force me to be vaccinated, anything happens to me, you're liable.
Yeah, wow.
So let's see how that goes.
How does that hold up?
Oh, well, let's see. There's actually a company, Empowerment Solutions, I think they're called. And you make a donation of $10 and they do all the paperwork for you. And it goes out to your MP, to the Prime Minister, to the Health Minister. Because you know what? We've got to call them out on this.
I think a lot of this stuff with our government, where people are fearful of the government. Like, we're fearful of the government. We think that we don't have the voice to actually say something to the government. We think that they're making decisions and we're powerless over here. But it's actually designed to be the other way around. It's designed to be that we've got the power and we should be voicing opinions and things that we're against and what we need and what we want. But people, it seems like people are afraid.
Yeah, they are. Well, they've taken away our right to demonstrate as well. I mean, did you see that? That lady with her kid the other day getting locked up for walking down the street with a placard.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they tore her kid away from her and they arrested her and locked her up. It was absolutely horrific. And they manhandled her. She's suing the police force and she's suing each one of those policemen and policewomen. She's suing them all.
Unfortunately, the police I don't think the police have a handle on our own civil liberties and how they're meant to interact with us. I remember years ago, the police were called the police force. Do you remember that? They used to be called the police force, and they changed it to police service. And that was meant to be a PR thing, but also to remind people that they're not meant to be a force against us. They're meant to be a service for us.
They're meant to serve and protect us. That's what their duty and their job is. How are they serving and protecting anyone the other day by locking up this woman and traumatizing her 5-year-old child? Like, it was absolutely horrific. And when people see that and people watch that on TV or on YouTube or wherever it is, it makes them be scared of actually standing up and using their voice. So many people would look at that and go, I'm not going to go and demonstrate. They're going to lock me up. Where you should be able to walk out there and say what you believe. The other thing too is that, like this, all this censoring on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, I mean, one thing COVID's done is it's divided us. There are people that believe that there is some sort of conspiracy going on, and then there are the others that,
and they're hardcore each way, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. I think I've been unfriended so many times on Facebook in the last couple of weeks, which I don't give a fuck about. See you later. But, I believe that, I believe in freedom of speech, and I think that, it's all, our freedoms are dissolving. They're being taken away from us.
Yeah. And look, everyone's noticed how much our freedom's been taken away with the COVID thing. and we are operating out of that fear. Like as you said, that lady that got arrested with a kid. But I think everyone's fearful of saying the wrong thing, saying it out of line. We've become such a politically correct world of how you can speak to people that no one feels safe to actually express what they honestly feel.
Yeah,
for fear of retribution.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
But social media is allowing people to come out and say some really stupid and fucked up things.
Yep.
And this is that thing we were talking about. The social media is good on one hand, but it's
dangerous on another.
Dangerous on the other hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had people call me out for posting. Like I posted that video of that scientist, Dr. Mikovits. I think
I saw something on that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, where she was interviewed, and I had people calling me out saying, what I'm doing is dangerous, by promoting that sort of thing. Where actually, I completely disagree. I think, everyone should be investigating into what is really going on right now, because it just doesn't all add up.
Yeah,
it really doesn't. Laurie was very upset with me.
Was he?
I think I'm the only one that Laurie hasn't unfriended. Hi, Laurie.
Well, that's
he still wants to go surfing with me.
Oh, good old Laurie.
Yeah.
And now tell me, it seems like that you've been a bit of a rebel your whole life. Like you've been always one to buck the establishment, to sort of create your own groove, and obviously that seems to be what's led you towards this medicinal cannabis sort of crusading, would you say?
Yep. Yeah, I suppose I need to be careful how I say this, but basically my belief is that the whole medicinal cannabis movement is a really important, vital way for the world to go forward in, for the fact that it's a really safe medicine, and it helps so many people for so many different reasons.
Can I just interrupt there for a sec? Because there's a lot of people, and myself was included, we don't quite understand why THC, medicinal cannabis and CBD, why that is so important as a medicine, okay? And I think it is, and I only realised this recently, was how we have, how do you say that word?
Cannabinoid.
That's a hard word to say after a few scotches.
It took me 20 goes.
Yeah, cannabinoid. We've got those receptors in our body.
We do.
We've got receptors in different parts of our body, in our liver, in our blood,
everywhere.
in our bone, everywhere.
All mammals do.
All mammals do. And people, I don't think a lot of people know that. A lot of people just think, there's a bunch of old hippies pushing medicinal cannabis because you get stoned, you feel good, you're not feeling the pain. But that's bullshit. It's
We're born to receive it.
Yeah.
It's in our DNA.
And there was an Israeli professor that discovered the whole endocannabinoid system in the body in the 90s and realised that, shit, this is actually stuff that we need and our body needs to make our body function normally.
Absolutely. And pre-1930, it was part of our diet. So hemp was one of the most grown plants on the planet.
Yep.
It was grown everywhere for many different reasons. I mean, the first fleet arriving in Australia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is true. The British Navy, whenever they travelled, they always had botanists with them, and they always had a team or a crew that knew how to grow hemp, because hemp was the way that they got around.
Wow.
Right?
Because hemp's used for everything.
Well, yeah, you can't make a sail without hemp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hemp was powering these boats to get around. Well, the wind was powering, but
Yeah.
without the hemp sails to catch that wind, they would never have got here. So, that's an amazing fact just for that.
Yeah.
But then when they arrived, they turned up with seeds, right? Because if they tore sails on their journey and they needed to stop and, grow more hemp so that they could actually, make
Get
more
travelling
sails,
again.
they'd get travelling again. But they bought the wrong seeds here, and they bought a strain that was like really high in THC.
Because there's no THC in hemp.
Well, there is a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, under 0.5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, and myself included, I'm a novice on all this sort of stuff. I mean, I have smoked and I have done oils, but I'm a novice knowing how it all affects the body. And from what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, hemp is a different plant in essence to cannabis. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's all in the same. It's all in the same family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there are many different types of hemp as well.
Yep.
But like for instance, cannabidiol, which is CBD, which is the hot ticket that everyone's talking about, and there's a good reason for that because it's such a great product and everyone really should be taking it. CBD exists in industrial hemp, so like the CBD that I prefer, that if I was going to recommend it to anyone, it comes from an industrial hemp plant, which is about 22% CBD and under 0.5% THC. Now, if it didn't have the THC in it, it wouldn't be effective, right?
Yep.
So that's a really interesting thing. Like you hear about all these products, or people talk about getting CBD that has no THC in it.
Yeah.
It's not effective.
It doesn't work.
No.
So
Nowhere. Well, it does something, but it doesn't work anywhere nearly as well as it would if it had the THC with it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's what they call the entourage effect.
Yeah. Are people just afraid of being... As we said, cannabis has a really bad rep, and it's been around for a long time. It's sort of in there with the youth culture. It's in there with rebellion. It's in there with, you hear it all the time, pot smoking, bludgers, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's been abused.
Yeah.
Now, I agree.
And so it's gotten a bad name, and I feel like that's also what's given the whole medicinal cannabis a bad name. But really, it's different. There are different people wanting it, different people using it for different things. What I did discover, which I found really interesting, was that cannabis was federally outlawed in 1926.
Yep.
And in 2016, they introduced this narcotics bill, which allowed for the use of medicinal cannabis. But from what I'm getting, there's been a massive pushback from, like, say, politicians, from doctors, from the public, on really getting it out there and giving people who need it the access that they need safely and enough of it to help them heal.
Yeah. I don't think it's the public pushing back.
Okay.
I think it's, this is not a conspiracy theory. I think this is real. I think the pharmaceutical lobbyists and the pharmaceutical companies have been stalling the process for years.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't serve them. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Australia produces, I think it's around 60% or 70% of the world's legal opium supply.
Get out.
Yeah. So
wow.
Tasmania is one fucking huge poppy farm. And there's only 2 or 3 companies down there that basically own it all, big pharmaceutical companies. So all the Oxycontins and all those opioid drugs, they're all made out of Australian grown opium, or a lot of them, and that's big business in Australia.
Well, the government's making money on it.
They're making a lot of money, and and I think that they're a bit blinded by that, because one thing's for sure is that as medicinal cannabis becomes more available, people will steer away from opioids, because in a lot of situations they're more effective. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely opiates, there's definitely a place for them. Like if you get run over and an ambulance turns up and you're lying on the side of the road with a fucking broken leg, you're not going to want to have a vape on a pen, or a few drops of THC.
Yeah.
You want a fucking opium, you want a morphine shot there and
right
then.
Now. Thank
and
you
it's
very
going to
much.
send you into this, place where you won't even feel that pain.
Yeah.
Cannabis can't do that. But
the opioids are addictive.
They are. Absolutely.
Super addictive. You hear this, look, I don't know, I don't think we're as bad as America, but you hear all these things about endone, oxycodone, all this sort of stuff.
I was a heroin addict for,
okay.
I've had my battles with opiates long time ago. I've been clean for 23 years. I know all about it. They're incredibly addictive.
Is medicinal cannabis addictive in any way, shape or form?
Yep, I think when it's abused, it can become addictive. Okay. Absolutely. You hear of teenagers getting into the bongs and just sitting in their rooms smoking all day long. Yeah, absolutely. They are becoming addicted to it.
Yeah.
And I think...
But there's also, with teenagers, there's also the other stuff that goes on with them. They're, like I've smoked pot and I've gone out in the garden. And I've done awesome stuff in the garden. I've smoked pot and painted. I've smoked pot and written songs and played guitar. I think all this stuff can my view is it can open up your mind to other things if you allow it to. But if you want to smoke pot and go and sit in a room with your mates and play video games all day, and you do that day after day after day,
it's not good for you.
That's not fucking good.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest with you, I actually don't. I very rarely use cannabis in the daytime. I find it difficult to be able to focus and get a lot done.
Yeah, okay.
I end up turning into a bit of a clown when I'm stoned. So I try and avoid it in the daytimes, which is pretty difficult in my job too, because I'm constantly trying new products and experimenting with stuff. So shit does go a little bit crazy now and then. I think it's important to know what that feels like when you're giving people advice as well. One thing for sure is that people that come to me and ask me for help and advice with medicinal cannabis, I would say 70% of them have never tried cannabis in their life. And I would say more than half of that would be, men and women over the age of 60.
Well, that's a big thing, especially considering from the stats that I had a look at from what they've done on people over the age of 14 in Australia. They're saying that at least 35% of people have tried cannabis at some stage.
Yeah, they have. I need to have a piss.
Go for it.
Yeah, hang on a sec. I'm just gonna... Do I need to take it off?
No one heard that. Take it off. Yeah, go for it.
I'm fucking dying for all.
I'll sit here and amuse myself for a moment. All right, we're back on. Short pause for a good cause.
Yo.
Yep. And you brought back a cup of tea too, which is good. What am I drinking, by the way?
It's love.
It's called Love, the tea. You serious?
Yeah.
But what's in Love?
I made love for you.
Yeah. I don't want to know what you put in it.
No, it's just a cup of tea.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, earlier we were chatting about addiction. You were a heroin addict. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So in my 20s, when I moved to Spain, I got introduced to heroin and cocaine. But I ended up using heroin. I was just mucking around with it and smoking it in Spain, and then I came back to Australia and ended up shooting it up, and I sort of battled with it off and on for about 3 years. OD'd a couple of times, clinically dead once.
Did that make you stop? Obviously not, if you did it a couple of times.
Yeah, no, it did. It did, absolutely. I've got a lot of respect for opioids after that. They can take your life away really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, addiction's been something that's really interested me, and we actually do with Greenlight, with our consultancy, we actually do quite a bit of work with helping people to heal themselves of addiction. I just finished reading a really interesting book written by a author called Gabor Mate, who's a fantastic writer. He's got a couple of books, but one of his books, which is a great book about addiction, is called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And I would thoroughly recommend it to anyone that's either going through problems with addiction or they've got family members.
Yep.
It helps you understand addiction, the process, why we become addicted to things, because there's so many different forms of addiction too. It could be gambling, it could be sex, it could be heroin, it could be shopping online. There are so many things that you can become addicted to, and it's an area where we get people coming to us for help with that. Like a lot of people come to us wanting to get off opioids.
And so are they using medicinal cannabis as a way to get off opioids?
Yeah, absolutely. They are, and there's also a few other products that that unfortunately are not legal in Australia, but one in particular which is a really interesting product, which is called Kratom, spelled Kratom. Do you know about that?
No.
There's a really interesting documentary on Netflix about it. It's called A Leaf of Faith. Kratom is it's a tree that grows up in Southeast Asia.
Yep.
It's used up through Thailand and Indonesia. And basically, the kratom plant's a really interesting one. It works like an opiate. It basically
so it affects the same parts of the brain as
it does. Yeah? It works on the same neural pathways and receptors as an opioid, but it's not actually an opioid. So it can be a really. It's basically a powdered leaf, and you can make a tea out of it and drink it.
And do they chew it as well?
No, you don't chew it.
No.
Oh well, I mean, I suppose you probably could, but I don't know anyone that does.
Okay.
But it's a really, and you can buy it legally in America. They tried to ban it, but there was such a huge outcry about it. You can buy it over the counter in. I think you can get it in Europe still. But it's, I don't know what it's scheduled here, but it is definitely illegal. I think it might even be scheduled the same as an opiate, which is just crazy. But it's a really interesting plant because you can use kratom to help you cope with withdrawals when you're coming off opioids. And
is there a risk associated with it where you could become addicted to the kratom?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely got its own claws, but I tell you what, it's a hell of a lot easier to get off than opiates, and it's far less dangerous and taxing on the body. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of health issues around addiction, isn't there? There's a lot of health issues. Is it because that when you get addicted, you're not looking after your body the same way as what you used to do?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think, well, if you're talking about opiates, I think people that are addicted to opiates lack, it's a sedative. So, you lose your drive. You lose your drive for life, you know. I can't imagine there's a lot of people addicted to opiates that are getting up and going to the gym and going surfing and, But
a lot of people say that about cannabis, that it demotivates them, it makes them lazy, makes them not want to do anything.
It can, some can, absolutely. But then again, there are other types of cannabis products that can be quite uplifting, and that's an interesting sort of topic in itself. I mean, that goes down to the terpene profile. Do you know about terpenes?
No.
Okay, so terpenes exist in nature. Terpenes are what makes, they basically what creates the fragrance in certain things. So, for instance, citrus, lemon is the terpene for lemons is limonene. Now, that also exists in cannabis plants as well. And that terpene is uplifting.
Is that why some cannabis you get is really sweet smelling?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Some smells like, shit.
Yep.
There's all these different scents that go with it. But like, for instance, there's a really well-known strain, they're not actually called strains, they're called chemovars. There's a chemovar of cannabis, which is super lemon haze. Now, if you have a couple of puffs on super lemon haze, you want to get up and go for a walk.
Yep.
It's not going to put you in the couch.
Yep.
Where the terpene profiles in cannabis strains, which are referred to as indica, which come from the mountains around India, they have a strong sedative effect. That's what they say in the couch.
But do they all have the same? Okay, so they all have these different effects on you, depending on which ones you smoke or you take.
Yep.
But what about the effect that they have on the body as far as medicinal, medicinally goes? Does it really matter which one?
No.
Okay,
no.
so it's
THC is THC and
THC,
CBD is CBD.
So the ones that, and look, just so people know as well, you've got a documentary that came out a couple of months ago.
Yep.
Called Green Light.
Yeah, I think it was about 8 months ago. Green Light, and then I was also in another documentary where I was interviewed, which is called High as Mike, which is a really interesting documentary about medicinal cannabis as well. So I was featured in both those films.
Yeah, I got to watch that this morning. Great doco.
Thank you.
And enlightened me a lot more on the troubles that people are having getting access to good quality medicinal cannabis.
Yep.
Because of the red tape and the restrictions around it.
Yep.
The stuff that has been helped with the patients that you've been chatting to, is it important that it's organic? Does it have to be organic? Like just going back to the type it is, does it need to be organic? Does it need to be a certain strain?
Yeah, good question. Okay, well, I'm a firm believer that a plant needs to be grown outdoors with natural sunlight and clean water and great soil.
Yep.
So does it have to be organic? In my eyes, yeah, absolutely, it should be. There's no reason why it shouldn't be grown like that. The only reason why, for instance, in Australia, to get a medicinal cannabis growing license, you're not allowed to grow it outdoors. It's all going to be grown in a confined space. I'm pretty sure that's the rules. But
wow.
Yeah, I mean...
Which makes it more laboratory style than as a beautiful natural healing plant.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, you know, there are growers that grow indoors and do it 100% organically. But, you know, you run into a lot of problems too when you're growing indoors.
Well, you're growing without sunlight for a start.
Yeah, you're growing with lights, but, you know, if you get a mite infestation or a bug infestation into that grow room, what are you going to do? They spray.
Yeah.
You know, so there you go. I mean, they did, you know, pesticides are used a lot.
Yeah.
You know, if you know what you're doing and you're growing it correctly outdoors, you know, out in the wild, and if you know how to companion plant, you're not going to run into problems like that.
Yeah. But wasn't, I mean, what do they call when you're growing hydroponic?
Yep.
So was hydroponic developed especially with, I suppose, with cannabis? You're growing it indoors, so it's hidden from the public view. It's hidden from access to people to, you know, stealing your crop, I suppose.
Yep.
It's hidden from access of the government and the police having helicopters and seeing where it is.
Yep.
And doesn't it also allow it to grow quicker and more abundant and a lot more controlled?
Yep, sure. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, like I said, some indoor growers are growing organically, right? Using natural forms. But most aren't. And they're using, you know, what these plants have been grown in, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, there's a reason why nature works the way it does, you know, and everything is there for us to use, you know, like the studies now going into, you know, mycelium and mushrooms and how intelligent nature really is, you know, should be teaching us that, you know, I mean, it should be grown naturally, I believe. Yeah. And I only, you know, really endorse products that are grown, you know, organically 100%.
Yep.
You know, like I was going to say, there was a test done a couple of years ago in the States where they tested like, you know, 50 products of CBD products that were on the market. And I think something like 70% came up containing pesticides or trace elements of pesticides, which is fucking scary. You know, when you're dealing with sick people and people with
sticking pesticides into their bodies as well.
It's not a good look. You know, when you're dealing with people with compromised immunities, you know, you need to give them the best, the safest, the strongest natural form of medicine. I mean, that's what this movement's about. Don't try and turn it into something else.
Yep. And this is what we spoke about before. This is the conflicting stories, I suppose, if you like, where cannabis came from in the 60s and the 70s, who it was associated with, and now we're trying to sort of change the whole tact of it and make people understand that it's actually a medicine.
Yep.
It comes from Mother Earth. It's got all these beautiful properties that assimilate nicely with the human body, yet there's a lot of stigma attached. And is it the ACT just legalised marijuana?
Yeah, you can grow, I think, 2 plants per adult per household.
Okay.
But you're not allowed to have any more than 50 grams or something on your person. So I don't know how that's going to work if you're a really good gardener and you produce a plant that's got a pound of weed on it.
Yeah. So how long do you think it's going to be until the rest of the country follows suit with the ACT? Just like in, say, America seems to be moving forward quickly. Canada is fully legalised now.
Yep. How long is it going to take?
Yeah.
Well, we were on a good track, and there's a lot of people really fighting hard behind the scenes. But this COVID, you know,
would have put it behind a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's put it on the back burner. I think there is some solid talk now about them completely rescheduling cannabidiol, CBD.
Yep.
Which would mean you'd be able to buy it over the counter in chemists. If that is true and that is going to happen, that's going to be fantastic.
I just heard of a doctor in Byron Bay that now supplies medicinal cannabis.
Yeah, there is. I haven't met him, but there is a guy that's opened up a medicinal cannabis clinic.
Yeah. So how does it work with people? So if you're sick, if you've got a tumour growing at the side of your head, if you've suffering from some sort of I can't even say that. It's the scotches I had this morning at 8 o'clock.
Debilitating.
That's the one. If you've got a disease and you have tried everything and you want to get your hands on some medicinal cannabis, is it easy for those people that are sick to do it?
Well, it wasn't. It is getting easier.
Yeah.
So there are now doctors that are focusing on medicinal cannabis.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of them there are in Australia, but this doctor's opened up in Byron Bay. Bless him. It's it's a good thing that he's done.
Yeah.
I think.
But why isn't there a line down the street of people wanting to?
Well, he opened
get
up
access
while
to
the
that?
virus is going on. So who
fair
knows?
call. Yeah.
Maybe there will be.
Yeah.
He's a brave soul though for opening up in this region, because most people in this, in the Northern Rivers region, know somebody that knows somebody, and medicinal cannabis isn't that difficult to find in our area, in this community, which is a good thing. And I've had something to do with that.
But there's got to be some differences in the quality that you're getting around the place, because I have heard stories of people who have got and said did nothing.
Yep.
And I've heard people talk about some places they go, this is where you get the proper good stuff from.
Yeah. So one thing that is a tricky thing for the doctors is that you need to know exactly how that medicine is going to affect people. Like when doctors prescribe medication for pain or for heart or whatever it is, doctors are all over these medicines. They know exactly how they work,
what it does, how it works,
side effects, how much you need to take, all of that. When they're recommending a medicinal cannabis product, unless they're all over that and they've got a really, really good understanding of where that product is coming from and its strength, I think it's difficult to get it right.
But does that mean? I mean, that's them operating out of the fear then, isn't it? The fear and the unknown and ignorant of what it can do and where it's come from.
Well, I can't speak for these doctors, and I hope that they're all over it and they really know what they're recommending. But the problem is that to go to a doctor and to get a prescription and to be approved, the process costs about $300.
Yep.
Right, which is a big outlay just to get a prescription.
Yep.
And then you go to a chemist, whether it's a normal chemist or a compounding chemist, or there is a bunch of chemists popping up around Australia that have got the license to sell the medicinal cannabis. They're charging a fortune for it. And where is that product coming from?
Yep.
Most of it's imported.
Okay.
Which is a real shame because,
Which is very weird considering that we have the power and the ability, the capabilities, the abundance
of Australia
to produce some really good, high quality organic oil.
Yeah, we could be the best, but I don't know. It's a real shame, but it's nearly double the price to get your prescription filled as what it would be to buy it, through the black market. And that's why the black market exists.
Yeah.
And that's why it's always going to exist until they get their products right and they get their prices right. People are always going to, look for a better deal.
You've just touching base again on the doco that I saw this morning, Greenlight, which is the one you're in. You guys help some amazing people.
Yep.
Like that little kid, Hunter, I think his name was.
Hunter Searle.
Yeah, little kid.
Little boy. He just turned 5.
Did he? Because he looked about 3 in the doco. Was that?
Yeah, I think he was about 2. I think he was 2 when we started treating him.
Okay. And now tell me what he had something with his eyes.
Yeah, he had retinoblastoma. So he had it's quite a rare condition that occurs. I think it's genetic.
Yeah.
His father had the same condition, and basically what it is, it's tumours growing on the retina.
Whoa.
So the doctors were treating him with chemotherapy, and it wasn't working, and he was getting sicker and sicker. And
was he losing his eyesight?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And I read a story about them on Facebook, I think. And
so you got in contact with them?
Yeah.
Oh, good on you.
Yeah, I did. I read that story and I thought, fuck, it's got to be worth a shot.
Yeah.
Trying to help this kid. So I sort of reached out I sent them a private message on Messenger, and
they're probably going, "Who the hell is this?"
Yeah, well, you know what? They were actually really. I think they were waiting for me.
Yeah, great.
And connected with the parents, and Danielle's a great lady, his mum, and we got him on CBD just to start off with, and then we introduced like really very very low doses of THC, but giving him THC at night, and he reacted incredibly.
I mean, is a lot of that an experiment on your part as well?
Yep.
I mean, there's a certain amount of knowledge, there's a certain amount of understanding,
absolutely.
But it's still an experiment.
It is, absolutely. But it's a really safe one.
Yep.
You've got to look at, they didn't really have any other options. The chemo that they were giving him wasn't going to work. It was basically, they were talking about removing his eyes.
Jesus.
And that was the only way that the kid could live, so he would have lost his eyesight completely.
And now he's about 5 and he's loving life.
Yeah, I think he's lost one eye.
Yep.
I think, sorry Danielle if I'm wrong, but the other eye's very good.
Yep.
But it's really interesting because he's still taking the oil.
Yep.
And when he does stop taking it, the tumours start growing again.
Yeah.
So it hasn't cured his situation, but it's
making it more manageable.
It's what stopped it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't cured it.
Yeah. And that was the same. I think there was a guy on the doco, him and his wife, he had this cancer, and I think Luke was having a chat to him. Luke, who's also on the documentary that features big in the doco.
Yep.
And I can't remember the guy's name, but he was on the chemo, it wasn't working. He went on to the CBD and the THC oil. It worked, they stopped it. They found that when he stopped it, same thing.
Yep.
It kept coming back.
Yep. I've seen that happen hundreds of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any definitive proof or evidence that it can actually cure. It's more of a preventative measure, would you say?
Yeah, I don't use the C word.
Yeah.
I never use the word cure.
Yeah.
Look, I've seen so many people get remission.
Yeah.
Right, which remission, remember your mission.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, I would never say to anyone cannabis cures cancer.
Yeah.
It stops it.
Yeah.
And it can slow it right down.
Yeah.
And it can help your body to get strong to fight the disease. But I don't,
Well, because the chemo just weakens the body, doesn't it?
Oh, it's just poison.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But saying that, I've seen it be effective. I've seen it work. But I'd love to see what the stats are on how many people it really works with.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that it does so much damage to the body. What concerns me is that, and I see this happening a lot, is that there's not really, the oncologists and the doctors don't really have a plan on how to repair the body after they've put it through that process of chemo.
Yeah, okay.
And that's where that's where naturopaths come into the equation. And
yep.
I think anyone that has cancer that ends up going through chemo and knocking the cancer out, that's great. I'm so happy for you. But now what you've got to do is get your body back in order. And that's a process in itself.
Have you guys had much flack from authorities? I know that was a concern when you did the doco.
Yeah.
Because it's putting you out in the spotlight. Like suddenly it's like, this is what I'm doing. Here I am.
Yeah.
They know where you are. They know your name.
Yeah. I've been really fortunate. My only incident with the police was when I was living out in the hills. When we first started making the documentary, I was growing, and I had a whole bunch of medicinal plants all around the house.
Yep.
And my partner and I we used to sleep on our veranda outside just with a mosquito net.
With shotguns?
No, we were out in the middle of nowhere. It was so safe out there. It was beautiful. But 7 o'clock in the morning, this fucking police helicopter hovering above the house.
Oh, wow.
So...
commandos dropping out of the sky.
Well, yeah, they do that, actually. They did that. There was, I don't know who was growing it, but someone else was growing a couple of hundred plants up the hill.
Yeah.
And they came down, on wires and ripped all the plants out.
Oh, jeez.
But, so they came down And I sort of got up and ran around with sheets trying to throw them over plants. And they're obviously looking at a helicopter, probably laughing at me, going, look at this plant.
Look at this idiot, yeah.
But yeah, so, 10 minutes later, a bunch of squad cars or, police SUVs turn up with about 8 cops. And, I got raided. They came in and took all the plants and they charged me.
Okay. With cultivation?
Yeah, they charged me with cultivation. And they were actually really nice. They were actually really nice to deal with. They let me pull the plants out myself. I said, look, I'll show you where they are. Let me pull them out. I've got a relationship with these plants. I used to fucking talk to them every day.
Yeah. I talk to my plants at home now.
Yeah.
Not marijuana plants, just normal plants.
Yeah, so I just had to explain to them all, sorry, these men have come to take you away.
And what do they do with them? They just take them out and burn them and get rid of them?
Burn them.
Yep.
And there was...
Or do they?
No, they did. And you know what? They were all just starting to head,
ready to go.
Yeah, and it was going to be a bumper crop. I was really excited about it.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, there was a lot of medicine in there for people, and I'd put a lot of heart and soul and money into developing, and there was a whole lot of different strains that, I was experimenting with. So it was a real downer. But I've got to say, the head cop, I won't name him, but, he's head of the drug squad in our area. He was actually really nice and very, sensitive and understood what I was doing and what I was trying to do. I was using the medicine to treat myself and to
help people.
Other family members and close friends. And I explained that to him, and I ended up pleading guilty. I got a good lawyer, John Weller, who, in trouble. Give John a call.
Yeah, I've heard about John.
He was brilliant. And I pleaded guilty, and John and I, presented to the judge, a whole lot of letters, and we made it very clear that it was my own personal medicine, and they let me go. I didn't get fined. I didn't.
So you're not growing it anymore?
No, but the judge did say to me as I was walking out of the courtroom, Mr. Morley, as he was finishing the case, he said, Mr. Morley, don't do it again. They will find you. Yeah. And so I've stopped growing.
So can I ask, are you on quality control with the stuff that you're getting?
I would never recommend a product to anybody unless I was all over where it's from, how it's made, how it's grown, how it's extracted. I'm all over that. I would never. There's a lot of shit out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, remember that a few years ago, I think it was about probably 6-7 years ago, there was that whole synthetic pot stuff going around.
Yeah.
You could buy it from Happy High Herbs.
Yep.
And I did that. I bought some stuff and they go, oh, look, this is all legal, this is all great, same effect, but there's apparently some really full-on psychoactive stuff that was going on with it.
Yeah, I think it was sort of designed, I think that stuff was designed for people that work in the mines and people that are, that are there getting drug tested because it wasn't showing up. But it wasn't THC.
No.
It was actually really quite toxic and dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently some people had, if you didn't have a turn, you were quite lucky, but I heard about some people that had some really bad reactions to it and actually brought on some epileptic type fits, brought on some psychosis sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, really dangerous.
That's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, terrible.
So where are we heading now? So as we come into 2020, we've got ACT. Okay, the world's changing as we spoke about this whole COVID-19 thing. You've got the ACT that has just legalised it. You've got Canada that has federally legalised the whole thing. United States is now delving into the psilocybin market where the mushrooms are starting to become legalised. Where's Australia going to go over the next couple of years?
Well, I think we're always behind.
Yeah, we are.
And we're always, look at our leaders. We're always, 2 or 3 or 4 years behind.
Yeah.
We will.
But we're a lot of years behind.
Yeah, we are. But like I said, there's some serious talk out there now of rescheduling CBD, which will be a game changer. And hopefully that'll open up a lot of opportunity for Australian farmers. Look, CBD should be priced like a supplement. It should be the same price as olive oil, olive leaf extract, or echinacea, or any of those things. It's a simple extraction. It can grow everywhere. There is no reason why that shouldn't be available to all Australians. It's completely harmless. You know, it's crazy. So I think that that's all going to change pretty soon, and it will be available, and I'll be so excited when that happens. THC, it's a different thing. You know, look, there definitely needs to be some restrictions around THC. If, you know, for instance, edibles. You know, if you've got a jar of like really strong edibles in your fridge and some kid gets hold of it, that's going to fuck that kid up. Like, it's not going to kill him, but, you know, it's going to give him a really, you know, tough 12 hours. So all that stuff needs to be, there definitely needs to be care. You know, I don't think that, you know, no, I got to be careful what I say here.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, there needs to be care around it. Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole psilocybin or magic mushroom thing is a really interesting one as well. You know, like that's we get a lot of people asking us about that. There's so much interest in it now. There's so much talk out there on social media, and there's documentaries, and you know, I think the research and the effort now that the science community is putting into psychedelics and the healing capabilities of psychedelics is really exciting.
Well, man, psychedelics go back so far in history. Through different countries, different peoples. They all had some sort of form of psychedelics. I mean, humans naturally, do we just chase mind-altering stuff? Is that what we do?
Yeah, I think we do. But I think the really interesting and the really beautiful thing about psychedelics is that they connect you to your godlike self, to a higher source, a higher power. And, you know, I think when psychedelics are used responsibly and there's respect, you know, to the plants or to the you know, even MDMA and LSD, you know, both amazing substances when used correctly. And I think now there's a lot of research going into that, and they're showing that, you know, for instance, you know, MDMA or ecstasy is being used. There's all these trials going on now for treating PTSD.
Yeah, that's right.
And highly effective. You know, it's also being used for counselling and all kinds of things. As can LSD. It can also, you know, be a real game changer. You know, there's trials going on now where they're giving, you know, like big doses of psilocybin to people when they're dying, and it takes away all the anxiety around their death.
Nice.
You know, you know, ayahuasca. I'm pretty experienced with that. I've sort of drunk ayahuasca.
I've tried ayahuasca a couple of times.
Yeah, I've had it about 45 times.
Wow. Now. Okay, I've had it twice.
Yeah, I've been doing it for years, and it's been an absolute game changer for me. It's been life changing.
It does open up your mind to different ways that the world works, different ways we interact with other people, different ways that we feel that we can be in the world.
Absolutely. It connects you with nature as well. You never look at nature the same way after drinking ayahuasca. You know.
But see, I'm also this, like, okay, alcohol is the biggest drug in the world. It's the biggest abused drug in the world. And it's a drug, make no mistake about it, it's a drug. It alters your mind, it alters your way of being. But if you have one or two drinks, you can be socially friendly and you can drive the car and you can operate in the world. You abuse it and you take it too far and you can become a dickhead.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and it's the same with marijuana, it's the same with anything. You can have too much of it and go too far and it changes. It's a game changer.
I completely agree. I mean, I've heard of people getting addicted to ayahuasca.
Yeah, okay. Or is it addicted to the ayahuasca or addicted to the experience that the ayahuasca gives you?
Well, I don't know. I think probably a combination of both. There's another really interesting one out there too, which is 5-MeO-DMT.
Oh yes, that's the frog.
Toad.
The toad, that's it. Toads and frogs, I get them mixed up.
Well, no, people get confused because there is a frog. There's a frog, which is the medicine for the frog is called Cambo.
That's it, and it also comes from...
That comes from South America.
Yes.
The toad, the 5-MeO-DMT, there's two types. There's a natural form, which exists. It comes out of the toads. It's a venom, and then they're also making it in a lab. But I don't know anyone that's experienced the pharmaceutical version. Only the natural version. The toad venom. And I've experienced that a few times, and that is just, it's the most incredible.
Apparently it's next level.
It's the most incredible experience anyone will ever have. It's it literally is like talking to God. Or realizing that God is part of you, and I mean,
it takes away that separation between us and them, and you and God, and makes you realize that we are on this earth and we're all one, and we're all working together to. I think what's happened is we lose our sense of touch with where we are in the world, and by doing these psychedelics, by doing marijuana, by doing certain drugs, it allows you to reclaim yourself and how you interact with the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. It reconnects you.
Yeah.
It's all about connection.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I listened to that podcast with Mike Tyson and
so did I.
And Joe Rogan. Where Mike talks about.
He loves it.
Well, yeah. I mean, he said 5-MeO or the toad, or it's actually called Bufo alvarus is its name. It's the Sonoran desert toad. Changed his life.
Yeah,
absolutely made him a better person. Yeah, and it's made me a better person. Yeah. And the only way to describe Bufo alvarus is it's ineffable. The experience is just undescribable. But one thing's for sure, that if everybody had a try on that one, the world would be a very different place. We'd all be a lot nicer.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to be, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and hopefully this fucking COVID experience is going to bring people back down to earth and make them think a little bit more about how we live, how we eat, how we farm, how we do business.
How we wash our hands.
How we wash our hands. Skin falling off. This whole connection with Australia and China and all these threats going on. I mean, that's worrisome, I think the world depends too much on China. I mean, we need to go back and start manufacturing and making our own things in Australia. A hemp revolution would be great. Imagine if everyone.
Why hasn't hemp taken off? I mean, there is so much good stuff that is made with hemp, that is made from hemp.
Companies are stopping it. The cotton farmers are stopping it.
It's meant to be one of the best types of protein that you can take as well.
It's everything. It's food, it's medicine, it's clothing, it's building materials.
I'm a big believer that the earth operates and gives us stuff, everything that we need.
Yep.
And I don't know whether it's because we've decided to take shortcuts or we think we can do better than what is there, but I think our body provides us with what we need. Mother Nature provides us with what we need. And we've lost that connection with it and how it all operates. And therefore we're looking at external sources for our well-being, to look after us, for our happiness. And we forget that everything's right there.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why the whole plant medicine thing is it's coming up now, and people are becoming really interested in it, because the pharmaceutical companies, they're not providing, that many cures, they're just keeping it all at bay. But, deep work with plant medicine can really, can be a game changer.
Well, man, I really appreciate having the convo today. That's unreal. I'm going to stick all the details about your doco in the episode notes. Also, you mentioned something else before that people should have a squiz at, and I'll stick that in there as well. The book.
There's so book recommendations. In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts.
That's it. That's the one.
By Gabor Mate.
Yeah, I'll stick that in the notes as well.
Another good book that I would throw in there is a really great writer from Canada called Stephen Jenkinson, who wrote a beautiful book called Die Wise. That's something we didn't even touch on, but everybody's fear of death. And not being conscious of the fact that we're all going to die.
We're either fearful of death, or we're ignorant to it, or we just put it out of our thoughts that it won't happen to me, or when it does, I'll wait till down the track.
Or it won't happen to my family.
Won't happen to my family, but someone's going to die. Your dog's going to die. Your mum or dad, they're dying. Everyone's dying.
We're all dying. It's the only sure thing in life. So Stephen Jenkinson wrote a great book about it, Die Wise. Thoroughly recommend that. And I've got so many people to read that book, because I'm constantly you know, talking to people that have been told, you know, they've got cancer, they've got 6 months or a year to live. So that's been, you know, and then there was that documentary I mentioned for anyone that's interested in Kratom.
Yes.
And that was A Leaf of Faith.
Yep.
Yeah, a great option for helping people to get off opiates. What else?
And there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome, buddy.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's
and
good
yeah,
chatting.
and I'll stick all the stuff in the notes. And if you get a chance, make sure you check out that doco, Green Light. Mr.
Awesome.
Nick Morley, you're a legend.
Cheers, buddy.
This has been another episode of the Bold and the Beautiful podcast. Dave Eller has left the building.